Welcome back to Marvelous Disney, the show where we talk Marvel, Disney, theme parks, fandom, movies, comics, and this week, a poster that everyone looked at wrong. Kind of like those paintings, at the mall. Remember when you used to have to look into the image and see this? You could never see the sailboat?
Never saw the boat, ever.
See, this is why Dan and I work together. I never saw the boat either. Oh, by the way, I am entertainment writer Jim Hill, and again, I am joined, as always, by the dynamic Dan Graney. And Dan, we are days away from San Diego Comic-Con. So how is the summer of 2026 treating you?
Jim, it is hot here in St. Louis. Hot, humid. We have all of the temperatures. We have hot, balmy, sweaty, humid, sultry, you name it. But it's been jam-packed with camps and shuttling kids around. I told everybody that I've got a new delivery system coming. It's like Dad Uber, but I've got Dad deliveries constantly. Shoes, bags, sometimes just a water bottle. I don't discriminate. Whatever you want. But I wanted to fix something because I realized that every week you ask me how my weekend was and like how the parade was or how that brisket turned out. And I answer for like 4 minutes, go on. And then we do the news and I don't seem to ask you back. So Jim, how have you been? What's Jim Hill been up to this summer?
To see the problem with, we are very similar beasts. I mean, you talk about the Dad delivery system. In fact, I spend at least 3 mornings each week. I drive Nancy to her water aerobics class, and one morning of that I am off running errands while she teaches, and the other 2 mornings I am the supportive spouse. And I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you, Dan, but the women who take her water aerobics classes, and these are people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, they've had their spots for decades. So I ended up in the deep end. And so I don't really necessarily exercise in Nancy's class. I just don't drown for 45 minutes because, again, all the old ladies got the good spots, and they're not going to give them up, not without a certain amount of attrition, if you can read between the lines here. But yeah, the Dad delivery system. For example, I'm tomorrow morning while Nancy's teaching, I'm running down to my brother's house to collect a Wacker to deliver to a family member. And, it just sort of, that's hardwired into males of a certain age. It's just sort of like, where do you need me to go? What do you need me to deliver? When do I need to be there? And it's so, and in between that, I do a couple of podcasts.
Yeah. Well, okay. So there you go. You heard it here, folks. We're going to call it Dad Dash TM. And we're gonna register this thing. Well, see, that's what I've been missing. 22 episodes in, and I finally learned how conversation works.
Oh, you're fine. You're doing great. More to the point, it's growth, Dan. It's a beautiful thing. And speaking of things that take a little planning, next week, the entire pop culture universe packs a bag and descends on San Diego, which means about 100,000 people are right now staring at a hotel bill and quietly panicking, which, by the way, excellent time to mention our sponsor, UnlockMagic.com, where you get real discounts at Walt Disney World and Universal Orlando tickets, sometimes upwards of 12% off. Unlock Magic is run by the exact same team behind the DVC rental store and the DVC resale market, so just pick your dates, grab your tickets, and go. And when you do, please tell the nice folks at UnlockMagic.com that it was Dan and it was Jim that sent you. And okay, so we have to start with with a big one this week, Dan, and it's not a rumor. After nearly 90 years, Marvel Comics is leaving New York City. The publishing division, about 100 people, is relocating to Burbank, California, to sit alongside Marvel Studios on the Disney lot. And so what? The lease in New York is up next year, and this is the decision.
Yeah. And, you know, Jim, this one hit me because it's the exact thing that we called back in episode 18. I don't know if you remember, but when Winterbaum took over and Buckley was out, we sat here and asked, does the comic side stay in its own creative engine, or does it become a satellite of the movie machine? Well, here's the answer. They're literally moving the comics into the movie building.
And the leadership matches the move. Cebulski, I'm saying that name wrong, who's been the editor-in-chief of Marvel since 2017, is stepping down. In fact, interestingly, he's headed to Japan to run Marvel's manga and Asia projects, whereas the new editor-in-chief is Stephen Wacker, a real fan favorite from the editorial side. He edited the Eisner-winning Daredevil and Hawkeye runs, the Captain Marvel relaunch, and he was there for the introduction of Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel. So he's a person who's beloved. It's a geography that stings. And the reason it stings is, well, you have to understand what New York means to this company. I mean, New York City invented the comic book, and every major publisher was there. DC, Timely, Archie, Dell, Fawcett. And Marvel, really more than any of them, Dan, was New York. I mean, you know, the Fantastic Four lived in a Manhattan skyscraper, and Spider-Man commuting in from Queens. You know, Daredevil's there in Hell's Kitchen. You know, Doctor Strange down in the Village.
Yeah, I mean, this wasn't all on the page. I mean, Stan Lee, you got to remember, he took the New York State motto, Excelsior, and he made it his personal catchphrase. The bullpen was this, you know, mythological place in Midtown. And Marvel, you know, the staff used to play the DC staff in softball games in Central Park, and they would print the results in the letters column. The city, you know, it wasn't just a setting, it was part of the personality. It's just, now it's an office park in Burbank next to the people who make the movies, which, look, DC did the same thing in 2015, and I get it. It's probably the smart business move. You consolidate, you save on that Manhattan rent, and you get everyone in one place. But, you know, there is something kind of real ending here. You know, New York will always have Spider-Man. It just won't have the people who make them anymore.
And by the way, there is precedent for this. Now, remember, you know, Disney acquires Cap City, ABC, in 1995. You know, it completes the deal in 96. 1999. After 3 years of trying to run a brand new television division with a 3-hour time lag between the brain trust in New York and the money back in LA, they reach out March of '99 and effectively tell the folks who are working in Manhattan for ABC, we're going to need you to relocate. In fact, we're going to build you a brand new building, right across the street on the other side of Riverside from the Disney lot. But we're going to need you to decide by August of this year, whether or not you're actually going to make the move. And I want to say they reached out to like 240 people in key roles at ABC. And interestingly enough, the decision that was made at that time was that ABC Sports, ABC News, and the advertising staff could stay in New York. But on the other hand, the folks who worked for ABC Daytime and the ABC Primetime lineup had to come to Burbank. And I'm just wondering if we'll hear about this as part of this move. But there were people at ABC, a good talented people that the network highly prize their input. And who effectively said, I can't do it. I got kids in school out here. I have elderly parents I need to take care of. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to resign. And now, mind you, They built them a brand new 10-story building, 400,000 square feet. Construction started the fall of '99. I want to say they dedicated it the following year, and everybody moved in 2001. And in fact, you can see it these days when you drive by on the 134. It kind of shares the block with the Roy E. Disney building there, the famous one with the sorcerer's hat. But the ABC building's right up against the road there.
Now, it seems like this is starting to feel like deja vu, because a few years ago, wasn't there this another initiative where they were going to try to move Imagineering down to Orlando?
Oh, yeah. And in fact, that's another interesting moment in Disney history, because that was forgive me, it's a deep throat. Follow the money. It just, in that case, it was the reality that Disney stateside, when it came to its theme parks, the majority of the money was being made in Florida at the Walt Disney World Resort, the 4 parks there, versus the Disneyland Resort with its just 2 parks. And so the thinking was, obviously we need the talent closer to Florida so they can be making better decisions. And more to the point, we're not flying them back and forth to Florida and putting them up in hotels to work on these things for the parks. And again, that was another one of those situations where you didn't want to give people the option of opting out, because there was a definite brain drain at Imagineering. A number of folks simply said, well, okay, I'll go work for Universal. And look how that worked out, okay? Anyway, excellent point, Dan. But again, just to come full circle here, this is a genuine end of an era, not just for Marvel, but let's be honest, the whole American comics industry, which was born in New York City and now has basically completely left it. Andy Park signing that poster with, part of the journey is the end. That feels like it's about more than just one movie this week. Now, as to the rest of the news, there's a reason it has been a slow drip this month. Nobody's spending their good material right now because Hall H is next week, and Marvel has the Saturday night slot. Feige is promising special guests, and right now, Dan, everybody's kind of holding their breath, right? But before San Diego, Marvel did make one stop. Kevin Feige turned up at Billy World in Shanghai, which I wasn't aware of until just recently, but it's a genuinely enormous convention. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people, and he brought something with him, right?
Yeah. I mean, if anything, we learned about Billy World, which is just giant. So, but yeah, Kevin Feige, you know what he brought? A poster. But so this is the first official look at the full Avengers Doomsday lineup in costume, all in one image. And Jim, this thing is dense. It's a painting. You've look at it. Have you seen it? Doom is front and center. He's masked, hooded. He's looming over everything. Steve Rogers is on one side of him. Reed Richards is on the other. And below, you've got the Legacy X-Men. You got Cyclops, mid-optic blast. You got Nightcrawler with some sport and some gray. You've got Beast, Gambit, Professor X, then the Fantastic Four is grouped together, the New Avengers, the Wakandans. Thor is kind of way off to the left with Stormbreaker, and then there's Sam Wilson flying in up top, and we see Mjolnir as well, but not in Thor's hand. So I mean, there's a lot going on there.
And I'm not going to lie, there's a real poignancy to who actually painted this image, and that's Andy Park. That's Marvel Studios director of visual development who left the company back in April in a round of layoffs at Disney, and he posted the poster himself, calling this the last full film that he got to lead, and then signed off with a line that he personally stopped me cold. Again, part of the journey is the end, which, as we just mentioned earlier in the show, that's the tagline to Endgame. So he uses the studio's own words to say goodbye to Marvel Studios.
Yeah, I mean, that's genuinely moving. And the last thing he did there might really be the most looked at piece of Marvel art of the year. Now, the internet did what the internet does, and every outlet started. They all started counting who is it on the poster. And the headlines were all some sort of version of no Loki, no Spider-Man, no Doctor Strange, no Captain Marvel, Deadpool, no Wolverine, all of those.
Okay, and to be fair, that's valid, and it lines up with the weirdness we've all had. We've had all along. I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch spoiled that he was in Doomsday, then walks it back, saying, "Oh, sorry, got it wrong. I'm actually in Secret Wars." And Alan Cumming saying, just talking about the script and how everything has secret. Everybody has secret names. So, the news about who's actually in the film wouldn't leak.
Yeah. So the absence story, I mean, that's totally plausible. Except for Jim, I actually did look at the picture, and you know what? Loki is in it.
Okay, this isn't like I'm looking on the grassy knoll and seeing the gunman behind the fence there. Right?
No.
But please explain more.
Yeah,
right?
it's not, this is not the sailboat at the poster in the mall. He's really there.
All right. Okay.
He's small. He's in shadow. He's almost hidden, but at the dead center of this entire composition, just look just right in the middle, directly underneath Dr. Doom. Doom's chin is basically resting on top of him. Once you've seen that horned silhouette tucked into the darkest part of the painting, you really can't unsee it.
And that cannot be an accident. I mean, face it, in the world of marketing, an illustration like this, is planned within an inch of itself. So every figure is placed. So if Loki is small, shadowed, but still sitting in the optical center of the image, somebody chose to do that.
Yeah, and you think about where we left him. Loki's series ended with him becoming the god of stories. He was sitting alone at the center of the multiverse, physically holding the timelines together so everything else could exist. He's the load-bearing wall. So Marvel puts him at the literal center of this poster in the dark with the whole multiverse stacked on top of him, around him. And the story everybody wrote was, Loki's not in it. And it was just one of those moments where it's like, pretty sure he is, but okay. Everyone's counting the empty chairs, and really just nobody just happened to just look in the middle.
And his placement, the way the image is done, it suggests that Loki's role might be exactly what it was at the end of his show. Not fighting in the battle, but underneath it all, like, keeping the floor from falling out.
I mean, that's my read on it. We could be wrong, but that's the poster, and that's where he is. You know what? I bet my fez on it.
There we go. Shriner callback, by the way, folks, right there. Okay. All right. By the way, there is a second detail in this painting that Feige shared at Billy World that fans caught, and this one is kind of a real tell, isn't it? But you have to look at Thor, Now, he's holding Stormbreaker, not Mjolnir, because Mjolnir has been handed off to Steve Rogers. Mm-hmm. But the lightning coming off of Stormbreaker is now orange.
Right, and it never has been. Thor's lightning is blue, sometimes white or a bluish white, but it's been blue for 15 years in 8 movies. Orange is a choice. Orange is Odin's color. That's the Odin force, the full power of the All-Father, which in the comics passes to Thor when he's worthy of the throne. And then they call it the Thor Force. It's the most powerful version of the character there is.
And Marvel already set this up. I mean, we all watched it happen. Those 4 teaser trailers that ran with Avatar back over the holiday season. The Thor teaser, it had him praying to his father, asking for the strength of the All-Fathers so he could fight one more time, and then thunder rumbles in the background. That was the prayer. This was the answer. Odin said yes.
Yeah, I mean, the most powerful Thor we've seen might be showing up in December. And, I don't know if I like his odds, but it tells you everything that they're building Doom into.
One quick one before we close up here. Again, and by the way, I think we probably should label this as a rumor. It's insider James Mack, nothing official, but Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye is reportedly turning up in Doomsday, and according to leaked conceptual art, Kate Bishop is too.
Well, okay, so let's do the math. We've got Cap, Thor, Hulk, Hawkeye, and Downey. That's 5 of the original 6 Avengers actors. And then we have Yelena standing in for her sister. Renner's said he'll always dance with Marvel. And Disney, they closed the door on a Hawkeye season 2 in January. And he was a little vocal about, he was like, no, they were cheap. So, it just kind of felt like, okay. But where else does Clint show up? So, rumor, but it fits.
Okay.
So we've got a hidden god holding up the multiverse, a Thor with a brand new color, and possibly 5 of the original 6 back on screen. And that's the stuff Marvel considers a warm-up act.
Oh, God. Hall H later this week is going to be a bloodbath. And by the way, folks, I want to apologize. We're a touch out of sync. That, of course, there's going to be all of this news that breaks over the next 2 weeks. So the next show is going to be amazing. But all right, and in a good way. And speaking of break, when we get back, we're going to talk about how Spider-Man is 2 weeks out. And Kevin Feige may have spoiled his own surprise. But before that, there's this.
When it's time to scale your business, it's time for Shopify. Get everything you need to grow the way you want. Like, all the way. Stack more sales with the best converting checkout on the planet. Track your cha-chings from every channel, right in one spot. And turn real-time reporting into big-time opportunities. Take your business to a whole new level. Switch to Shopify. Start your free trial today.
If you want all of your data in one place, you need the Intuit ERP. I'm Damon John, and I run my growing business on Intuit Enterprise Suite. Learn more at intuit.com/ERP.
And we're back. Quick aside here, before we get to talk about Spider-Man Brand New Day, Dan. I have to ask, have you ever done San Diego Comic-Con in person?
I have not. It's one of those things that, it has that mythical sort of quality to it where I'm like, I've talked about it. I've wondered aloud. I've talked to people who've gone, but I myself have never experienced it. What about you?
I've done it, I want to say, about 5 times now, though it has been, I want to say it was before the pandemic when we went last. And you have to do it at least once. I mean, the other thing going into San Diego Comic-Con is you just have to sort of go in with a defeatist attitude. There is no way you're going to be able to do everything. A weird thing about San Diego Comic-Con is it's literally 5 conventions stacked on top of one another. And you have to so often do 3-dimensional chess. Like, for example, if there's a panel that you want to you must attend, more often than not, you have to get in line for the panel that's 3 panels ahead of that, so that you will, by standing in that line, eventually get into the room before the panel that you want to see, and then you have to camp out. But no, I mean, I think you would enjoy it greatly as well, anybody who pays attention to the hubbubbery knows your love of pop culture, and this is the white hot center of the pulp culture universe for 4.5 days if we count preview night, every July, and we're gonna have to figure out how to get you out there for at least once.
Yeah.
But on the other side of San Diego Comic-Con this year, of course, on July 31st, we get Spider-Man Brand New Day. And so, again, just a reminder, 2 weeks. And we were just talking of Billy World, where Kevin Feige, there in front of the audience in Shanghai, he said something that, what do you think? He meant to be coy and was absolutely not coy.
Yeah, it's so funny because all of a sudden I'm at this point where these things are starting to drip out on Spider-Man, and I find myself looking away. It's like, oh, no, too soon. No, it's too close. Yeah. So Kevin Feige, he was asked about Yelena Belova, and he said, and I watched it, he said roughly, hey, if you're a Yelena fan, wait until Doomsday. She's a big part of that. But if you don't want to wait, you might see Yelena a little sooner in the movies. Jim, there's one movie between now and Doomsday.
It's not really a riddle, is it? And what makes it remarkable is Yelena has not been in a single trailer, a single TV spot, a single poster, and so what? This character was clearly meant to be an opening weekend surprise, in much the same way that Charlie Cox, walking into, Aunt May's kitchen in No Way Home was meant to be a surprise. And Marvel typically guards these moments in their films with their lives, right? And so here's Feige just handing it over in Shanghai 2 weeks out?
Yeah, and the only thing I could think of, I was like, maybe that's the point. He's not a careless guy. And this isn't new to him. This veil of secrecy, that legendary room that they have at the studios, and then Yelena's about to be one of the biggest characters in the MCU. She leads the right now called New Avengers. She's reportedly huge in Doomsday, which should not be surprising. So maybe you don't save her as a surprise, but you use her as a ticket. Now, I mean, the idea, everybody was kind of like, what? Because, what she's actually doing in the movie, and we'll label this a rumor, inside chatter, not Marvel. Maybe she shows up once or twice. Maybe she's in a scene looking out her apartment window, and Peter Parker sees her in a surprising way. I mean, we don't know. It could be like, the 66 Batman, when they were climbing up the wall. Maybe it's just something like that.
Okay.
And she pops out.
Okay. All right. I mean, what's interesting about this, though, is that you think back to, how would you do this? What moment, where would you have her pull a 66 Batman? And then you remember the trailer, where Peter has an interesting fashion accessory, doesn't he? or lack thereof?
I mean, we did see Peter waking up out of a web cocoon. I mean, we see him. He's not dressed. And apparently there was something about an intimacy coordinator on the set, which seems odd for this movie. Again, rumors, but there's obviously something there, and then also potentially the idea of suggestions that maybe Elena has something involving the Hulk, which makes sense, not just because, if there's a rage monster, we do know Hulk's in it, but if there's a giant green or gray, but I think it's green, rage monster wrecking New York, the leader of the new Avengers is going to hear about it, just as long as she doesn't do that thing that Scarlett Johansson did. The hey big guy thing. I was like, we don't ever want to do that again. Never again.
All right, there we go. Okay, so long story short, maybe she's the bridge, because if the reporting so far has been that Tom Holland's Peter Parker isn't necessarily joining the Avengers in Doomsday, if that's true, and Yelena's a major player in the film that drops in December. Maybe she's the one thread tying this movie to that one?
Yeah, I mean, we're 2 weeks out, and the biggest surprise of the movie getting spoiled by the guy in charge of keeping the surprises. I mean, Marvel, it contains multitudes, Jim.
Well, I probably won't contain any surprises, but I do want to point out that over on Disney Plus, they just dropped a 27-minute-long documentary that tracks 20 years of Spider-Man movies, from the Tobey Maguire to the Andrew Garfield to, again, the Tom Holland. And just the notion of, for the one individual in North America who's going in cold, who needs to know about, what's going on here. And again, if the rumors are true about the particular version of Spider-Man we're going to get in Doomsday, maybe you do need to know all 20 years. Anyway, on that note, folks, stay with us, because Dan and I are going to discuss the X-Men casting rumors, because those have gone completely feral, and we've got the fallout from that ahead. But first, this.
Hey parents, how do you make smarter choices for your kids' college today? That's where Sally can help. With Sally, you can find scholarships, funding options, tools, and guidance all in one place. And if you need a loan, Sally has options for different families and different situations. College is only worth it if you do it right. So don't just help your kid go. Help them go smarter. Sally.com/GoParents.
Amazon Health AI presents Painful Thoughts.
Why did I search the internet for answers to my cold sore problem? Now I'm stuck down a rabbit hole filled with images of alarmingly graphic sores in various stages of ooze. I can clear my search history, but I can never unsee that.
Don't go down the rabbit hole. Amazon Health AI gets you the right care, fast. Healthcare just got less painful.
And we're back. Okay, folks, so here is perhaps the surest sign that Comic-Con is just a week away. The X-Men casting rumors have reached a fever pitch. Every scooper who's out there in the business is suddenly very confident, which typically means something's going to be announced soon, right?
I mean, Feige gave us the frame in Shanghai. The X-Men movie lands after Secret Wars. Reportedly subtitled Children of the Atom. We don't know, but maybe that's something that will get announced. I think a title announcement is definitely going to happen this upcoming weekend. Jake Schreier directing, coming off of Thunderbolts, and he did hint that it'll focus largely on the female characters. But beyond that, I mean, this is just like a big rumor blizzard. I mean, I don't know if you heard that. First, they were like, everybody's like, Adam Driver's going to be Magneto. And although I'll say I prefer Mr. Sinister for him, Skarsgård for Professor X, Margot Robbie for Emma Frost, and then there are names for Rogue and for Storm and Jim. I mean, I want to be honest with people right now. That's all this is just chatter.
Yeah, but and a lot of that chatter will evaporate as of late Saturday afternoon, early Saturday evening. And this is the nature of the week before Comic-Con. Everyone's confident. At the same time, half of them are wrong. And we'll have to wait to see what happens in Hall H to get it all sorted out.
Yeah, so we're not going to sit here and pretend we know. I'll just flag the one thread, and I think it is actually real. Whoever ends up cast. I mean, if we look at the ages, Patrick Stewart was 86. Bill Skarsgård is 35. Sadie Sink, who everyone's convinced is Jean Grey in Brand New Day, she's 24. So whatever the names turn out to be, I mean, they're casted young.
Yeah, and that does make sense because realistically, what they're doing, with this is the MCU take on X-Men, and so they're plowing the road for the next 15 years, I mean, not finishing out the last era. So, and again, we'll know the real names soon enough. Ironically enough, probably by the time this thing's post, because that's preview night.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so 3 fast ones. Vision Quest lands on October 14th, and it's bringing back Wednesday releases, which, Marvel hasn't done that since Secret Invasion in 2023. But they've been all over the calendar since. This puts Vision Quest in line with Agatha All Along, which makes sense. It is the closer of the WandaVision trilogy.
All right. And 2, Yolodi Young is back as Elektra for Daredevil Born Again Season 3. We've got set photos, which have revealed the redesigned costume. And we have not seen Ms. Young since, the Defenders in 2017? And again, look, timing is everything. Matt ended season 2 of Daredevil Born Again in prison, and in Chip Zdarsky's run of the comic, which by the way, the show has already been rating. Matt went to prison, crime spiked under Mayor Fisk, and Elektra's solution was to become Daredevil in his place. So if they're pulling that thread, that's the season of the show.
Which would be a great arc, having the assassin take up the mantle of the man who won't kill, and having to learn restraint to wear it. We have seen somebody else wearing the Daredevil costume before with Bullseye in the original Netflix series, but we'll see. But our third one, Nova, is alive, and it's not a show anymore. Deadline has reported that Michael Waldron's developing Nova, which is, for those who don't know, Nova is, the Nova Corps. We saw them in Guardians of the Galaxy. Nova is very loosely considered the MCU's version of Green Lantern. Space Police, let's call it that. Well, Waldron's developing this as a feature, writing with an eye toward directing. So it was a movie, then a show, then shelved in 2025. Now a movie again with the guy who created Loki. I think Glenn Powell has a very strong chance because Michael Waldron has worked with Glenn Powell quite a bit. And Glenn Powell has been, his name just without Michael Waldron attached to it, has been brought up multiple times, at least from a fan casting standpoint. And the guy's having a moment. So just throwing it out there. Doesn't seem like a stretch.
I like that. More to the point, you don't hand a project to your Doomsday co-writer because it's not going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, this is, there you go.
Yeah. That's right. So, hey, Elektra's back. Nova's back in action. Adam Driver may or may not be wearing, a helmet or a very elaborate cape. I hope it's that one. Somebody in San Diego knows the answers, and they're not going to tell us for 6 more days.
6 days? Okay. All right, Dan. Look, anybody who listens to this podcast who's been paying attention recently, you've been anywhere near the internet this past month, you know the story. DC is in trouble again, and at least on paper, the evidence looks pretty brutal.
It does, but let's lay this out honestly, because while it looks rough, we can say that just with Supergirl opening June 26th to 37 million, finishing behind Toy Story 5 and Toy Story's second weekend. And then it dropped 74% to 9.6 million. And then this week, the Batman Part 2 slid again from October 2027 to February 2028. This movie was originally supposed to be out in October of 2025, so past October. Yeah. So by the time this thing arrives, it'll be almost 6 years since the Batman.
Yeah, and bad things come in threes. And the third one here, which really set people off, DC Studios isn't bringing any of its movies to Hall H. Now, mind you, Clayface and The Man of Tomorrow, the 2 films in active production, nowhere, nothing mentioned on Comic-Con schedule, whereas, as we've mentioned repeatedly in this week's show, Marvel has the Saturday night slot with Doomsday. And not to put too fine a point at it, but this is after Gunn skipped Warner Brothers CinemaCon panel. He could have been there in Las Vegas in person, but no, he sent a video while Millie Alcock and Jason Moana, they were there. They worked the room.
Yeah. So, the headline writes itself. Bombed movie, delayed movie, no show at Comic-Con. DC's dying, fire everyone, start over. And Jim, that's almost completely wrong. I think Supergirl is the best example I've seen all year of how this machine is actually working.
I love it when we go against the conventional wisdom. So please make the case.
Okay, we're going to start with Comic-Con because it's the easiest to debunk. First of all, DC isn't skipping it. DC Comics has a whole booth. Remember, it's Comic-Con. They have a whole booth. Silver Age throwback, a 1950s Daily Planet newsstand. They got free Mad Magazine facsimiles. Jim Lee's doing a panel. And Lanterns has a Hall H panel with the full cast because Lanterns, that sucker's coming out in 4 weeks. They're promoting the thing that's a month away instead of the thing that's a year away. Clayface probably gets New York Comic-Con in October when it's actually close. This isn't a company in crisis. This is just a company with a calendar.
That is an excellent point about Clayface potentially at New York Comic-Con this fall. And also, let's be honest here, that San Diego Comic-Con does not guarantee the coverage or coverage the way it used to. Hell, Marvel didn't even do a Hall H panel last year, and nobody, thought to write the MCU is dead story. They what they wrote and said was they're saving it. Same behavior but opposite headline.
Right. Now, Supergirl, and I want to be fair because there is a real story here. And this is something we touched on, off air last time. It's just, it's not just the box office. It's what the Hollywood Reporter dug up about how the movie got made. Now, Craig Gillespie directed it, and reporting says he and Gunn, they weren't creatively aligned. Sources say it never really got past healthy friction, but it got far enough that DC did test screen 2 different cuts, the directors and the studios.
But here's the thing. Of those 2 cuts, the scores never got out of the 60s. And again, this is a 100-point scale, folks, for either version. So it wasn't like there was one great cut and one bad cut. They both landed soft.
Yes, and then they held what the reporting literally called a bake-off. Gillespie's cut was 11 minutes longer with more villain. The studio's was tighter, head-to-head in test screenings, and the studio's version won by 2 points.
2 points. That's the margin that decided which Supergirl the entire world saw.
Yeah, and this was my favorite detail, which was the needle drop. Now, if you, I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard plenty about this. The finished movie uses an acoustic cover of Jimmy Eat World's "The Middle," and it has been mocked into orbit. Now, Gunn wanted a cover of "Girls Just Want to Have Fun" by Cyndi Lauper, and he lost. So, James Gunn, the guy the internet once fired over this movie, lost the argument about his own movie soundtrack to the studio.
Yeah, which really complicates, if you're looking for a villain in this story, who's the villain?
Well, exactly. And then here's the last piece. Okay, we're setting this whole thing up here. The rumor is Supergirl is going to hit digital July 28th. That's 32 days. Fastest the DC movie's ever gone theater to home, beating Superman's 35. Now, everyone's reading that as panic. They're like, dump it, cut the losses. But Gunn told us his logic last year when Superman went digital in 35 days. He said flat out that he wanted everyone who wanted to see it to be able to before Peacemaker premiered.
Oh, my God. And when does Lanterns premiere? That's August, right?
That's right, August 16th. So digital on the 28th would give you 2.5 weeks to catch up before the show. This is the same play he ran with Superman and Peacemaker, and it worked. Nobody called it panic. It was the same move. It's just a different narrative.
Okay, so, and again, given what's been going on overall with the majors in regard to release dates, for films, in theaters and then showing up digitally, suddenly this doesn't seem like a DC story anymore.
Oh, yeah. Now, this is the part I've been chewing on for a month. I've been ready because, Supergirl isn't alone. We've seen 3 big genre movies underperform this year. Supergirl, Masters of the Universe, and The Mandalorian and Grogu. That's 3 studios, 3 franchises, and 3 fan bases. And the same thing happened to all 3. Weeks of negative, clickbaity, doom and gloom coverage before anyone could even buy a ticket. Now, Supergirl got review bombed on top of it. The verdict was in really before this movie even opened.
And then there's a second factor here that, again, less cynical and more structural. And we're talking about, what, barriers to entry, right?
That's the other half. The best articulation of it came from the guy writing the next Star Wars movie, Jonathan Tropper, on Starfighter. He said the goal was to recreate the feeling of sitting in a theater in 1977. And the key line, there are no barriers to entry. Now, you compare that to Mandalorian and Grogu, which is the payoff of 4 seasons of television and a spinoff. If you're a normal person who likes Star Wars as a kid, what's your on-ramp? You're not behind because you're lazy. You're behind because they built it that way.
And let's be honest, when an audience feels behind, they don't buy a ticket. They wait for that film to come to them.
And that's the punchline, because it does come to them. That's the number nobody's putting in the headline, Jim. You've been hearing this too, right?
Yeah. I mean, for example, Amazon, Amazon MGM Studios, which made Masters of the Universe, earlier this summer, they're very excited about when this film is going to show up on Prime. And think about what that means. That's a movie that the internet has already filed under bomb. And yet the people who actually own this movie are not behaving like someone who owns a bomb. I mean, that's the thing. I think we talked about this on the last show, that they're prepping a Masters of the Universe 2 because they believe that once this is available on that streaming service and people discover this movie and how fun it is, that they will come back for the second installment. This is kind of what we're hearing over at Disney too, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean this isn't just it. Mando and Grogu, they're going to come home to Disney Plus. What is it this week? I think it's this week. I think it's the 21st.
I think you're correct. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, Disney's treating it like an event. This just happened. But Disney's treating it like an event. Supergirl's on digital in 9 days with the whole series waiting on the other side. I mean, the theatrical run is increasingly becoming the marketing campaign for the streaming release.
And look, in our own lifetime, Dan, movie grosses became a ball score. And in fact, I actually credit that to what Jaws did in 75 and then Star Wars did in 77. Just the notion of, making more money than God, and suddenly people began paying attention to these things. But the important thing to understand is that box office isn't the only scoreboard anymore. And more to the point, it may not even be the one that all of the company that these major media conglomerates that own studios and streaming services are actually paying attention to. In fact, I'll tell you a story from Drew and I just recorded a brand new fine tuning today, and they were talking. On that show, we got talking about Netflix and K-pop Demon Hunters, all right, which is now the most popular film of all time on that streaming service. But what's fascinating is how, remember, never went to a theater. I mean, had a teeny tiny itty bitty limited run, but never actually went to a theater. But it's been viewed over 633 million times. And and by the way, the reason I know this is they were talking up the more recent animated film, Swapped, which had dropped on May 1st, which inside of, what is that? 60, 70 days, has already been viewed 133 million times. It's the second most popular animated film ever on Netflix. But again, it's this entirely different metric, in regard to what's a success. It's not how much did you make at the box office. It's like how many times did it get watched? And then, of course, how many of the people who subscribe to your streaming services opted to stay for another month? How many of those people did you retain?
Well, and that's it. So, and this is the real evidence right here, Jim. And this is the thing that actually made me want to talk about this. This is the boots on the ground, just face-to-face conversation. I have not met one person, not one human being standing in front of me who saw one of these movies and didn't like it. Everybody I've talked to about Supergirl said it was fun and they liked it. Everybody I talked to about Mando and Grogu had a great time. They said, oh, it was great. It was a good time. I liked it. It was fun. The people who went are fine. The people who are furious mostly didn't go.
Yeah, and it's that gap between the online verdict and the actual human people who bought a ticket reaction is the whole story here.
That's right. And this is not new. Jim, this is Solo. You remember the Solo?
There we go.
The internet decided it was a disaster before Frame was public. And I have never, to this day, met a single person who watched Solo and didn't say, oh, that was fun. Not one. I mean, the movie was fine. The narrative just got there first and buried it. And that was 2018. We've really kind of learned nothing.
Yeah, and that's the other thing about, and Dan, of course, with the great work you do at Hubbubbery, and again, you celebrate so many of, the films of the 80s. I mean, you just did that wonderful episode on Big Trouble in Little China. And think about it, when that came out and just really did not connect with an audience. But
other than the 12 of us in the theater when I saw it, yeah.
There we go. But think about how people talk about that movie now. That how fun it is. It's just one of those things where it gives people great joy now. The disconnect between how a movie originally does in theaters, and by the way, this also includes The Wizard of Oz from '39, which didn't make its money back when it came out. But things like The Rocketeer, where just a movie came out, didn't find its audience, but then gets discovered a few years afterwards and beloved. Now, to be fair to the Doomsayers for just 1 second here, I mean, look, superhero fatigue is a real thing. And Supergirl, again, Dan and I have not seen it, so we're just gonna maybe not perfect. Hearing the villains a little on the thin side, and that the tone doesn't necessarily match the last Superman movie, but again, people forget how it goes. I mean, look, the second movie of the MCU, The Incredible Hulk, and again, we're in Rocketeer country again. It underperformed. Iron Man 2, still one of the lowest rated things that Marvel Studios made. Still love the Tony Stark's dad, and still love all of the references to the 64 World's Fair. But again, look, the MCU doesn't even become the MCU till the Avengers in 2012. And what was that, Dan? That's 4 years and five movies in? Yeah, so, if you were calling for Kevin Feige's head back in 2008, you would have been a little early by like $1 billion, right?
Exactly. I mean, so really the moral is, look, you watch the movies or don't, but and this is for us too. It's like you don't let a headline decide for you, and if you like Supergirl, say it out loud, because right now the people who didn't see it seem to be the loudest voices in the room. And honestly, that's just how we lose the fun stuff. We can't have nice things if we do that.
There we go. I love that take. Okay, so on that note, Mr. Graney, let's bring it home. So, again, big week ahead. We got Hall H on Saturday. We got Spider-Man in 2 weeks. And Hidden God of Stories holding up the whole multiverse in the middle of a poster.
That's right. Yeah, Loki is quietly loving that nobody seemed to notice him, which would be the most in-character thing for him.
This is very, very true. Now, anyway, I know I've managed to subtly sneak in several mentions of your outside projects here, Mr. Green, but just in case people weren't paying attention, where can the nice folks find you?
You can find us on YouTube, especially, and Facebook. It's the Hubbubbery. It's HUBBUBBERY. We actually just recorded a couple of fun episodes. We've got an upcoming episode about Howard the Duck, which has 40th anniversary. And Jim, this week they announced that there's a super premium deluxe box set 4K with posters and everything else. Only $2,000. being sold. I think individually numbered too. When we talk about that, and just in time for the big Marvel movie that we've been talking about that's coming right away. We cover the first Spider-Man made-for-TV movie starring Nicholas Hammond. So give that a look.
Oh, that is so cool. Yeah. But I may be the only person on the planet who quotes Howard the Duck relentlessly. I mean, I love that moment when he's walking into the plant that's on fire, and the scientists are like, my eyes, and it's like, it turns the camera. This does not bode well.
Yep.
So
I thought of you as soon as that moment happened. I go, well, that's Jim.
Just love that movie.
All right, Jim. What about you? Where are you at?
Look, we got a whole bunch of stuff at Jim Hill Media. We got Disney Dish. That's our theme park show I do with Len Testa. We get Fine Tuning. I was just talking about the animation news show I do with Drew Taylor, who does wonderful work at The Wrap. We have the Epic Universal podcast with Eric Hersey. In fact, he's driving back from Universal right now. And in the car with him is his lovely bride, Lauren, who I do the Disney merch show. And she was visiting Dulcet stores down there in Florida. And then, of course, there's the Case 4 with Chris Cox. That's the other theme park related show I do with Len. And let's see, what else? Again, we need to take a moment on today's show to thank Eric Hersey and David Gray for the wonderful job they do editing and producing this podcast. And by the way, if you have been enjoying Marvelous Disney, and 22 episodes in now, is that what we are?
That's
really?
It, 22.
Okay, so please head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating or review. It generally helps people find the show. Anyway, as to where I am online, you can find me at X, you can find me on Instagram, Jim Hill Media, and then over in Facebook is Jim Hill Media News. And again, I apologize, folks, we're a little bit out of sync. In the best of all possible worlds, we would be recording this on the Sunday night after Comic-Con and then have all these amazing stories to tell. But on the other hand, in 2 weeks' time, we're going to have, that's going to be Comic-Con and Brand New Day we're going to get to talk about. And do you have your tickets yet for that? Or,
I do. Yeah, I bought them, and I was kind of like, because they were going away when I bought them, which was a while ago. I should also mention that the rumor is starting tomorrow, tickets go on sale for some other movie that doesn't come out till December. So we'll see. The same thing. It's just sort of like, wow, okay. Well, again, wonderful time to have a Marvel podcast. But again, please come back in 2 weeks' time, and Dan and I will share all the news that occurred while we were away. So, but until then, thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon.